in the way she walks. A girl so smart, she can make a fire start. Hi, Bonar here again. If you haven't really learned the tricks of how to restring your guitar, then it can be problematic, or it can be a little bit of an unpleasant experience. It's much, much simpler than people think it is. People usually learn, someone shows them. It's kind of one of those lore things that is passed on from person to person. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't really know how to do it. I'm going to show you how to do it quickly, easily. You'll never dread restringing your guitar again. So come on over and join me, and we'll go to my table and we'll look at all the details up close, and you'll see what an easy and straightforward process it is, and hopefully something that you can learn to enjoy. Let's do it. Okay, so here we are. Here we are back at the table, and we're going to do a series of close-ups to show you in detail how do we restring the guitar the easiest possible way. Okay, so I'm just going to be a pair of hands floating in here. And what I want to show you is this tool. This is a peg winder, okay, and we use that to quickly get the strings off. If you restring your guitar frequently, or if you have a lot of guitars to restring, you're going to find this incredibly helpful. Okay, so what we do is we put the peg winder on the peg head, and if you're not sure which way to turn it, just listen to your string. And what I do is, let's see, how much string can you see there? Not much. What I do is I put my finger under the string to take up the slack. So I use my finger like a tension puller. And you can see the string coming loose there. So that's the first step we do. I'm going to start on this string. I always restring one string at a time unless I'm doing some cleaning. About once a year I condition the fretboard with lemon oil. Maybe I'll do a video on that for you sometime. And so then I'll take this off. Now I'm going to show you in detail how I put these strings on, but that string's now loose, okay? And so now we're going to go to the other end, and we're going to look at what we do down at the bridge, okay? Okay, so now we're down at the bridge end. Now, any of you who have watched the unsticking a bridge pin video, you've already seen a demonstration of this. And this is, how do we just remove the string and the bridge pin when the bridge pin isn't stuck, okay? So you'll see here, I've got slack in the string, and what I do is I push the string into the hole. You can see me pushing it down, and that releases any pressure that the string ball at the end is creating against the side of the pin, and now that pin should just lift out. And again, you'll notice my bridge pins are wedged, okay? That's something that I do myself, and it's to prevent the ball from getting stuck on the end when I'm putting my strings in. So I'm just going to put that pin down here. There's my first string. I just take that up out of the way. Okay, so now the next step we do is just the reverse of what we just did. I've got a brand new string right here. You can tell it's brand new because the end of it where the ball is isn't all mashed up and bent from going through the bridge and being held in place. And so what I do is we line up the string into the groove on your bridge pin, and you hold it in there. Okay, so can you see, where is it there? There it is. Okay, so you line up the string into the groove on the front of the bridge pin, and that groove is going to face the nut, okay, face the neck. So I'm going to take that string with the held into the pin there, and I'm going to insert it into this hole here with the groove facing towards, up towards the neck, up towards the saddle and the neck. And now that's seated, and that's all I have to do there, okay? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch the string up and just rest it in its groove in the nut. And now we're going to move back to the other end of the guitar so you can see up close what I'm doing there. Okay, I'm going to try this again because I started and I lost track of my orientation, and one of the things that I wanted to point out, because I'm doing this from a weird angle so I can show you. So we bring our string up here. I sit it in the groove in the nut, but again, that's not really essential. I just do it out of habit as much as anything. And our string comes in to this side of the machine and wraps around. And you'll notice the strings on the opposite side come from the inside and wrap around that way. So these ones here are running, the three skinniest strings, E, B, and G, are wrapped clockwise around the machine, and the three on the opposite side, E, A, and D, are wrapped anti-clockwise. Okay? So now, my string's a little bent up because I wrapped it around once already the wrong way. But what I'm doing is I'm just going to wrap it around here. So it'll give me a little bit of a fight now, but that's okay. So don't get fussed. This is all totally manageable. And this will happen to me, it'll happen to you. I've put on a few thousand sets of strings. Don't worry about it. So now what I'm doing is I'm wrapping the string around the machine, and I'm creating, I hope I'm not blocking the view too much, I'm creating concentric winds on the machine. Okay, I promise I am. So, I'm just doing it from a weird angle. But there it is. Okay, so there we go. And I use the thumbnail of one hand to hold the winds down. And you can see I've got a couple of winds around now. And that's all I need. I put 3 winds around on the skinny strings, because some more winds will appear as you tighten the string up. And then I put the string through the hole up above the windings. So, here we go. Now I'm just going to poke the end of this through above my winds, and it comes out the other side, above the winds as well. But if it comes through on the other side below the winds, don't sweat that. It's going to be okay. Okay? You don't have to be too precise, because the engineering of this is going to solve all your problems. So then what I do is I grab my needle nose, I grab the end of the string that's through the other side, and I tug it out, and then I give it a little tug, and then it's crimped. Once it's crimped a bit, it's going to hold itself in place. Okay, now I seat the string back in the nut, and you can see it's winding around the machine in that direction. So in this case, clockwise, from the inside out. And we just do that, well, there's a variety of reasons why we do that. But partly, it distributes the pull correctly from the nut out to the machine. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my tuning machine, my peg winder, to wind that up until it's a little bit tight. You can see how the peg winder saves you a lot of time. Okay? Now, people talk about stretching the strings and how the professionals have a lot of methods for stretching the strings. I have a method for stretching the strings. Okay, so here's my magical string stretching device. It's just my tuner, okay? And what I do is I just put my tuner on. Okay, and this is another product plug. This is my favorite tuner in the whole world, the TC Electronics Polytune clip. So I've got now, I'm tuned to a G flat, I think, or something there. A, B, C, D, E. I'm just tightening it up. And you don't have to be super precise, but if you want to stretch the strings in, the smartest thing to do is tune the strings once you've gotten them on. Oh, it's a little sharp. And it doesn't matter if it's a little sharp. whatever, it's stretching in. So just get it so it's not super sharp, and then you're ready to put your next string in. And I'm just adding one more very close shot so that you can see how that string is wound around about 3 times, okay? And you can see how on the concave cleat, that string has been pulled up and it's locked itself so that the string is secure. And really that's all there is to it. And we just do one string after another, just as I've shown you here. That's all you have to do. Okay, so I did that first string, and then I shut off the camera, and I just went ahead to restring the guitar because I needed to put new strings on it. It occurred to me as I was looking at it that it's easier to see the wound strings. I demonstrated using the skinny E string, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm going to do another string for you as a quick demo, because it might be easier for you to see what I'm doing. I'm just going to get a little bit of this stuff out of the way here. So I'm going to do the D string now, so that you can see it. So again, I start off up here, and I just wind the string to make it loose. And again, if you're not sure, just pluck the string and you'll hear it getting looser. So then you know you're going in the right direction. Okay, so we just wind that out until it's really loose. Okay, you can pull it with your fingers to create more slack in it down there. And then I'm going to unwind it right off the machine. And as I mentioned before, I'm going to point out here, once I get my big fat fingers out of the way, and sometimes you have to use the needle nose to straighten the string out because it does get a little bit crimped when you put it in, as I showed before. So there it is. Now the string's out of and what I do is I turn this around. I turn the cleat around so that the hole going through it is going sideways, because then I'm always applying the string the same way. I don't want to reinvent the wheel at any point in the game. Now we're going to move down to the bridge. Okay, so here we are at the bridge. You can see that the D string is loose. Okay, here it is. And again, I've unfastened it all together from the tuning machine, which I recommended in my video on the bridge pins. So now I'm going to poke the string down, and you can see the string is sliding into the hole, and my end pin comes out, my bridge pin comes out, and my string easily comes out of the hole. Nothing's locked up. I'm going to get that string out of the way. That's a used string. I recycle my used strings. You can, find a metal recycler who will take them. D'Addario, if you're in the USA, D'Addario has a program in place in the USA. I don't think it's in Canada yet. And so now we're just going to put our string in. Okay, there's my string ball. So you're saying, what about the shaving? Well, if you watch the video, the other video about getting unstuck end pins, one of the things that happens with our end pins is the ball will, if it's a standard end pin, it's cylindrical, and sometimes the ball will stick on the end of the pin, and then later on you get a tack and the ball slips up. The ball is supposed to slip up as soon as we install the string, and the ball sits right underneath this wood, about here on the pin. And it's the pressure of the ball pulling into a tapered hole that creates pressure on the pin and locks this whole mechanism together. So when I shave the ends, then the ball can't get stuck. And as a consequence, the string and the pin seat perfectly right from the outset. Just goes in like that with the groove facing the neck. And then the ball slips right up, and it's in its proper position right under the bridge wood. Okay, and that string is ready to go back, and we're going to go back to uptown. I'm going to go back uptown to the headstock and finish this string. I'm doing this because I think it's easier for you to see with the wound string. It's a little bit coarser, easier to see on the close-up. Okay, so I've sat the string in the groove in the nut, but again, you can see it in there afterwards. I just do it as a matter of habit and in the hope that it will stay there while I'm working, but it doesn't have to. It's not critical. So I bring the string up on the inside. These strings you're always winding from the inside out. So these ones are being wound anti-clockwise. I go around 2 or 3 times with the thicker strings. With the A string and E string, I usually just go around 2 winds. The D string, if I'm feeling luxurious, and there you go. You see that it did slip out of the nut. And that's okay. It's nothing, nothing untoward there. It's just a little awkward for me because I'm not used to showing you this from this angle. Okay, so there we go. I'm getting there. Okay, so there's two winds around, and that's perfectly fine. I'm going to feed the string through from this side. And you can see it coming out above the winds on that side. Okay, can you see that? There it is. I'm going to grab it with the pliers and gently but firmly pull it all the way through until it slightly crimps. I'm going to turn it a little bit that way. Now it's kind of crimped into position, and that'll hold it in place enough for me to tighten it up with the peg winder. And then you'll see here, it has seated itself. I don't know if you can see the nut from there, but even if it hadn't, at this point I could put it back in the nut. Okay, so now my tuning machine tunes this way to tighten up. I'm going to use my peg winder to save time. Now this guitar is tuned funny because I had it in a special tuning for one of the songs I'm working on. So now I've got it approximately tuned, and I'm just going to put my tuner on. And as I put each string on, I tune up the preceding strings as well. So I'm going to start with this one I just put on. Okay, that's G. So there it is, D. Okay, that's the D string I put on, and now it's tuned to D. Now I'm going to recheck the strings, the other strings. There's my G, and it's stretched out a little, so it's gone flat. So I just retune it. And really, I don't do a lot of weird gymnastics with the strings to stretch them in. What I do is I retune each string as I put each new string on, so I keep the guitar in tune because that's the best pressure that you can, the best tension you can apply to the strings is the tension you're expecting them to operate under. Okay, you don't want to overstress the strings necessarily. There's no need to do that. What we do is I tune the strings up, as I've shown you, and then after I've got all the strings on, what I usually do is I usually play the guitar, or at practice usually, for a couple of hours. And what I find is after about 90 minutes to 2 hours of play, the strings are all nicely stretched in. And that's all I do. Okay? So there's the demo with the slightly thicker string, so you can actually see a little more closely what I do. Okay, my final little addendum on this, as I was putting the strings on, it occurred to me, I see something that I often see and I just respond to it automatically, but I didn't discuss it in the video, so I'm going to discuss it now, and that is this, okay? Even though I taper the ends of the pins, sometimes you get a little bit of friction or drag on the ball as it's riding up the shaft of the bridge pin, and you get the bridge pins riding up like this. Now, we don't really need to get into a lot of physics about why that happens. Who cares? Here's what we need to understand is, what do I do as I'm tightening my strings, you should keep an eye on your bridge pins. And if you hear or see a bridge pin riding up like this, here's what you do. You poke it down. Don't jam it down. Poke it down gently. And if it seems to be continuing to ride up a little bit, just keep your finger very, very gently on it as you tighten your string up. And that'll prevent the string from pulling the pin up if it is tending to do that. The string will get pulled up and it'll create that tension. The string on this, the string ball on this is sitting right under the wood, so it's halfway up the shaft of the pin, and it's creating pressure between the pin and the conical hole that the pin is sitting in, and that is what's going to lock that down. So again, if you notice your pin's riding up, and if you didn't notice it and it's ridden up and you've already tuned your string, detune your string 2 or 3 turns on the machine. Gently press your pin back down. Do not jam it down. Gently press it down to approximately where you think it should be, and then tighten your string back to tuned. That's all you have to do with the pins that ride up. Just give them a very gentle little push down. They'll be fine. So now your guitar is restrung and sounding beautiful. And what you want to do now is practice on those new strings for a couple of hours. So you've got a good excuse to go away and practice or write some songs and play those strings for a few hours, and they'll stretch in and they'll start to stabilize, and away you go. And I can't remember if I mentioned it in the steps, but I'm going to mention it now. One of the simplest things you can do that's going to prolong the life of your strings, no matter how you like them to sound or how often you like to change them, one of the simplest things you can do is simply use a clean cloth, a clean dry cloth, and wipe your strings off after every time you play. It's the oil in our hands that oxidizes the strings. And if we wipe our strings off a little bit carefully after each time we play, it gets quite a lot of the oil off our strings, and it slows down the rate at which they oxidize, and you get more life and more great sound out of your strings. So that's a little tip for you. Anyway, I hope that's really helpful and gets you going. If you have any questions, please send me a direct message. My email address is in the link as well. If you want a one-on-one session and I'll step you through changing the strings on your guitar, happy to do that. If any of you classical players want a video on how to change your classical guitar strings, leave me a message and I'll do one of those too. Anyway, that's it for this lesson. I'll talk to you soon.